continue, and we'll try and figure out what the gematria of our Parshat is, and we'll see if it has any significance.
No, I just did it.
And you see, that would be a Chabad thing. You would know that number off by heart, and you would be able to say what phrase that equates to.
It's the same as the Friedrich already.
What Chabad is famous for knowing all the gematrias of every word?
No, not the gematrias of every word, but quite often if you'll come to somebody's wedding and so on, they will take his name and her name, add the numbers together, and then say, 150. I know what sentence has 150, and they'll give you a sentence or a phrase that has that same mathematical value, and they'll say, see, the two of you together mean that. So like I've seen that many times. Yeah, you're talking from personal experience.
Like the gematria of Shalva would get.
All right. Parshat Chai, lived, number 2, page 136, number 2. This is a katon. This is a 2-part note with perhaps something higher and something lower in it. The pattern of his routines was double-faced. He evaluated experiences of the past, and he lived to transmit improved versions for his children of future generations, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So, again, here we see ascribed a world of something that we would not see in any other parish, that he is living this period of time, and he is improving his philosophical outlook by experimentation or trial and error or from experience, and he is giving that forward to the next generation. Again, something that we wouldn't see from the word chai, he lived, in any other form of parish. It wouldn't make any sense if we ascribe that to it by any other system that somebody else would use.
Is it because it says there are Parshat Chai instead of Parshat? Is that how he derives it?
No, he's deriving it specifically from the katon, just from the note.
But her point, that's interesting because it doesn't say. I just looked back at the last guy. Mm-hmm. This seems the only one that says this by Parshat Chai.
Well, so the pasuk before is the Parshat. The next pasuk is right.
That's a good question. So we see that construct of the firstborn son in a long list of sons, quite often getting an exceptional sentence that describes him. So when Adam gives birth to Shet, we'll see that he gets a little more description of himself than all of the rest of the 10 generations that are defined there before the flood, and we will see. Well, we're not going to go into the further books, but when the children of Israel are counted, we'll see that come up sometime. The first person who's mentioned will get again a different cantillation. So when we see the Nisiim all bringing the same thing, the first Nasi who brings something has a little bit of a different way that his paragraph gets cantillation notes. So the first one who does something will quite often have something exceptional about him. So agreed. Good that you noticed that we are giving something more to our Parshat than we're going to give to.
Although I just looked forward, and there's another one that says Chai like that, but then it's the Shalach Chai, but then the next one doesn't seem to say that.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be considered. So that'll be interesting which ones do and which ones don't.
Nonetheless, we will continue. Chamesh, 5 with the Mercha. For 5 years, he learned the basic behaviors of life, and
we should give out perhaps one. You would just skip out.
I think agreed. that word AB should probably be about, and about the ideas of his father and his explanations, as shown by the directional shape of the reading mark. This is a mercha, and again, we are doing something that we wouldn't do with any other perush. We're separating out the 5 from the 30 that comes after it, 5 u'shloshim, 5 and 30. We're saying that there was something specific about the 5 and something specific about the 30. So the 5 is, again, with a mercha, lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly moving us forward into what's going to go afterwards. So he's taking things from his father, lightly connected to before, and pushing them forward into what's going to go afterwards. U'shloshim, and 30 with the tipcha. This is going to close a bracket and have a pause afterwards. For the last 5 and 30 additional years, he continued deepening the ideals of his predecessor, as stressed by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So again, the Chamesh talks about what he's doing himself personally, and the Shloshim is closing not only what he did personally, but closing all of the things that he got from his father. So we're going back farther than the Chamesh includes with the Shloshim. Shana, year, with the stabilizing etnachta. During each year of his maturing life, not only did he clarify the meanings of his father's concept, but he also established his own attitude and viewpoints, as denoted by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So we're saying each year is building upon the year before, and he's making more and more philosophical contributions each year as he goes. And I'm gonna reserve comment on that until we keep on saying that word more and more times. Vayoled, and he produced with a tipcha. This is a backwards looking note, and it's going to have a pause afterwards. He attempted to perpetuate the accepted ideologies of the past, and he produced a successor in whom he could incorporate all the experiences of the past, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. So even though Vayoled, he's creating something new, with the tipcha we're saying Vayoled is a backwards looking act. He's creating something new in order to put everything from before into. Et Shalach, with Shelach, our Parshat planned to establish practical implications of his ideological concepts through his eldest son, and he combined with Shelach a viable synthesis of the past and the future. So we're deriving stability from the fact that each one of them are seemingly agreeing on that they have something significant to give to the future, and there does not seem to be any strife, and that's why we get stability there. When we read through the sentence, we're going to notice that after the word u'shloshim and 30, that we pause. So the 5 and the 30 are something that's conceptually looking backwards and forwards, and each year those things that they looked backwards and forwards about are going to get their own stability. They're going to sit there by themselves and be noteworthy, each and every one of them. So the word Shana is going to sort of stand on itself. And Vayoled, again, gets that backwards looking focus, and that's why it needs a pause afterwards. It's not Vayoled Mercha et Shalach. Vayoled so it's not going forward into that, it's going backwards. He's taking previous philosophies, and then he's going to find a vessel for it at Shalach. V'ar Parshat Chai 5 u'shloshim Shana Vayoled et Shalach. And we'll continue on. We're at 136, verse 11-13.
So when that other one, but the Vayoled Banim Ubanot, so there it's not the same note as this Vayoled, right? And what was the different meaning again?
We're going to get Vayoled Banim Ubanot at the end of this sentence.
Okay.
At the end of the next
But
sentence.
it was also at the end of the other one.
Yeah, it's a pattern that repeats.
I think I want to see the note. Okay.
So what's your question?
What you were saying, even when you started with the Parshat Noach, that's easy to isolate the variable this way. It's the same words, but with a different note. Like we think that it's like a chorus here, but if it's going to be a different note, then it's going to have different notes. But they're not all the
same. There might be a different one, in which case one direction was different.
Right, that's
but the standard construct is Mechatzi Chasaf Pasuk.
For what? For your
no,
but like this one is the one that on one.
But that's a very standard.
No, the words are the same, but I'm saying.
I understand. The Tam and Mikra seem to be very similar.
I don't think so. The one at 135 is a. I think you're going to forget. What's that one? That's a Munach, right? I mean, yeah, a Munach. Oh no, it's not. It's a.
We'll continue on. 11:13, number 1, Vayechi, with a Munach. So this is going to separate ourselves out from what's come from before and move us forward into what's going to go afterwards. Number 1, our Parshad had produced a follower, and he lived a complete life according to his own design, as indicated by the shape of the reading mark. So here we see a philosophical distinction from what has come from before, which is different from a lot of the things that we've already said about him, that he is inculcating part of his father's philosophy into what he's going to do. And again, I'm not quite sure how to square the definition that we've taken in the previous sentence with what we've done here, that he has taken his father's philosophy and made it part of his own, and here we're saying he's sort of completed a life according to his own design. So I think what we're trying to distinguish is way of life from philosophy of life, and that's sort of how I took the ability to say both the same things, that he lived his own way and he had his father's ideals. So I think the two of them don't conflict, but you have to read in a little bit more than what's written there in order to be able to have those two almost conflicting sentences right next to each other.
And one of the marks of the Revi'i is that it is not influenced, it indicates something that's not influenced by surrounding other influences. So if he took his father's ideals and stuck by them and didn't let the influences of the rest of the world change his philosophy, so it would work with both Sufim, because there's also is that a Munach in 11:12, item 1?
11:12, item 1. That is a Munach, yes.
Yeah. So it also indicates, a complete break and going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually emphasizes, I think, that idea of lack of influence from other.
Right, but when you look at what the Parish says on 11:12, Parshad was educated by Shem in observance of Noach's guidelines of conduct. So we're saying, right, he's taken philosophy from before, but how is that separate? So again, we sort of introduce this sideways. Well, he's rejected everything else, and that's what he's kept.
Right.
But that's sort of sideways. That's really not. That's a little bit of a workaround in order to say how are you doing something from before with this strong separating mark. So you're separating out from other things that were there in that generation, but keeping what was from before.
Right.
And again, I'm not sure if that's what he meant here or not, but that's the only way that I could take this strong separation and be able to reconcile it with the fact that he's saying that there's a connection. So he's separating from something, but not that. And here we're saying he's separating from the way that other people in his generation would have lived. So that's how we're using the munach in this sentence in 11:13. Number 2, Arpachshad with the Revi'i. So again, this is going to, we have another comment about this, Vayechi Arpachshad. Note NB, in relation with the end of the previous sentence, it is indicated that a person is not considered to be living a full existence before he produces offspring.
Okay.
He's making a comment about the style of all these sentences, right? That when they give their lifetime, what till they have kids and after they have kids. Right? That's what he's saying in general comment about
the
structure of all of them. Why is he saying it here? He could have said it already because we've had that already. I'm surprised he didn't say that the first
Like
time.
the Vayechi with the... So strong. He lived because he was able to have a children through a child who follows in his ways, and therefore by definition he's lived a life, a complete life.
I'm saying this division of the before he has kids and after he has kids. This is not the first person
No,
that's
for sure.
talking about that. I would have thought that the comment would have been the first time that he
I agree. I don't know that there's a specific reason why it appears here and not in the previous set of sentences, but nonetheless, here is where it is. Arpachshad. Number 2 with the Revi'i. Thus, Arpachshad represented a generation, and by leaving an heir, he was prepared to leave an imprint of his personality on the surrounding society, as pointed out by the broad meaning of the reading mark. So again, we're taking this idea of Revi'i, of something that is insular or living its own life, and we are now going to say that the idea of Revi'i is different from what we had said before. Before we had said that it's just something that's standing there by itself. And now what we're going to try to do is we're going to try and look at this shape that a Revi'i is. We're going to say, yes, it's standing there by himself, but it's going to broaden into more that's going to be there.
You mean the shape like it's a diamond?
So the shape of the diamond, that it starts at a point at the top, and then it goes out wider. So
it's not a dot. It's the real.
We're going to allow it to have some latitude, some width to it, and that's again our broader meaning of the reading mark. So again, we're going to take this same phrase, broad meaning of the reading mark, and we're going to ascribe different things to it at different times. And I'm not quite comfortable with this yet, but as I said, I'm going to try and point it out each time, just so that everybody is hearing what I'm struggling with, and hopefully we'll be able to get a better, more coherent definition of what the broad meaning of the reading mark really is.
So wait, every time there's a Revi'i, he says broad meaning of the reading mark?
In general, he's saying that phrase, and again, we in the sentences where we were talking about where everybody lived geographically from the others, and we use the concept of spreading out there. Okay, those I'm not gonna introduce into this discussion, because when we're using the directional shape to give us directions, fine. That's a separate concept, and that's only going to apply to sentences where we're talking about directions and things like that. But when we see Revi'i in various places, we're going to say the broad meaning, and it seems to have a number of different things that fit in with the concept of broad meaning. Both the fact that it's standing alone and the fact that it broadens out, and again, I don't see a consistency as to where we're applying the one and where we're applying the other. Number 3, acharei, after, with a pashta. This is going to focus on the word and move us forward into what's going to come afterwards. If the biological reproduction was only a preliminary phase of genetic advancement, The actual perpetuation became effective after, during the entire life of the offspring, as shown by the directional shape of the reading mark. So here we're taking this word after, and we're saying that what he had given to his offspring became much more important after his death than during his life. And again, a fascinating perspective that we wouldn't get from any other perush, that this idea of the pashta being on top and focusing forward is going to tell us that this is something important that's going to go forward into the next generation even.
So you know the names of them. So it's not for pashut. It's more like
Poshet.
To spread out.
To spread out.
How it has to, but the house. Straightforward meaning like the shot. Parachute probably.
He's producing holy dough with a munach. This is going to be separated out from what's come from before and mostly leading us forward into what's going to come afterwards. Number 4, by continuous education of his son, the father implanted in him habits which channeled the direction of his life. By valuable planned advice, our Parshad began his producing of an outstanding personality within the society as stressed by the shape of the reading mark. So, again, the question is, here we have separation, and yet we're talking about continuation in the sentence. So, again, I think it's got to be separation from all other possibilities or all other philosophies that might be espoused during that generation, and maintaining just that one walled off from everything else and continuing to propagate it going forward. Et shelach, with shelach, number 5, with the katon, with the 2-part note. As a result of continuous effort, our Parshad achieved with shelach not only a regular follower, but also a leader of a generation, as denoted by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So not only was he a follower, he's also a leader. So again, we get the 2-part note to say he's leading both a subordinate role and a superior role. So that fits in very well with the katon. Shalosh, with the word 3, number 6, with a munach again, so strong separation moving forward into what's going to go afterwards. For 3 incipient years, the father was passive, observing only the tendencies of his sons, but it was only to commence active influence along the line of the son's interests, as suggested by the shape of the reading mark. So for 3 years, he's sitting there and he's doing nothing but observing. So he's separating himself out from being an interference. And then moving forward, shanim, years, with the katon. So 2-part concept to what we're going to talk about. Number 7, our Parshad spent many years trying to guide his son into proper areas of the social structure in order to bring out of him the highest values of his inborn predisposition, as expressed by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. He's going to try to make what he's teaching him every year better and better and better, i.e. higher ideals and lower ideals, and separating them out and giving them to his son so that he could have the better be superior. The arba and 4 with a mercha. So this is going to be lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly move us forward into what's going to go afterwards. Number 8. Practically, our Parshad never ceased participation in Shelach's affairs. He continued his concern about his son's progress during the remainder of his life, and 4 centuries he kept waiting for results, as specified by the directional shape of the reading mark. So, would you bother your children for 400 years?
And waiting for the result. When will you ever?
I'd give it up after 100.
I think my father foreshadowed me. When will you ever become a doctor?
I'm also listening to this and thinking, these words are coming from our Father. Like, what did this say about his view of parenting us? So it was very interesting because I don't remember him sort of sitting and observing.
No, that was not normally his approach.
Not his approach.
That was for our Parshat. That was not for Jacob.
For the Goyim.
But, however, I mean, he did recognize the individual strengths of each of his children. He thought you were very quick and had beautiful hands, which you do. And
Children have.
yeah. So it's very interesting. I wonder how he saw us as a father raising children, and how he interpreted his parenting. Very interesting.
We will
There's no envy
try
on that one.
every time we see Vayolad Banim Uvanot to see.
We have plenty of
There are
time.
see where we go.
insights. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
These are the places.
We'll see how it changes. We'll see what it tells us.
Maybe you're in one of the notes. Maybe you're in
Not
one
me.
Me'ot, hundreds, number 9. During those hundreds of years, he also attended to his personal problems, shaping the life of the remaining children, as illustrated by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So this tipcha is going to apply not only to Shalach, it's going to apply to the other children as well, and it's going to say that our Parshat is going to get closure on all of the things that he was attempting to do. So I think this gives us a sense of a very fulfilled life, in that he achieves everything that he sets out to achieve. Shana, year, with the stabilizing etnachta. He hoped that each year would contribute some kind of a gain and not be wasted, as conveyed by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So when we had said the word year in all of the previous sentences, we had said that it was firmly that each year was building upon what the previous years had hoped to achieve, and here we're ascribing hope to the word year. So our stability is a little shaken from before, and I'm not quite sure where that comes from. But again, we're going down a list where we're worried about devolution of ideas getting worse and worse. But we haven't seen any of that yet. So this is our first hint that things are going to be hoped for to be better, but aren't going to be better necessarily year after year after year.
Suggestion. This is another reflexive focusing on the sun. So perhaps it's not quite the same.
Okay, that's
That's
valid.
it's a difference.
So the hope is not for his own personal achievements, but for the achievements of his sons, for which there is much more uncertainty, and therefore we introduce the term of uncertainty. Fair enough. Point taken. Vayoled, Mercha, and he produced, is lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly going to move us forward into what's going to go afterwards. He adhered to his philosophy of life, and he produced more children with fatherly care and concern, as depicted by the directional shape of the reading mark. So he's going to take what he had done before and mostly move it forward into the efforts that he's going to move forward with. Banim, sons, with a tipcha, closing the thought and having to pause afterwards. He shaped the abilities and behavior of his sons, whom he prepared to assume their own responsibilities in their independent lives, as signified by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So, again, we seem to imply at least some importance and some achievement to each of the other sons. Uvanot, and daughters, with the stabilizing sof pasuk, separated out from the sons, which had its tipcha. He educated his sons and daughters were also properly trained to face their future duties within their families. So the daughter's stability is coming from his education of them, which again is a different concept from Vayolad Banim Uvanot that we just had in the last sentence. There again, we're going to go back one page 136, number 10. The sons and daughters were adequately instructed and trained how to keep a household efficiently and bring up children properly. And here, the daughters are trained to face their future duties within their families. So they're receiving training, but not perhaps to the same level of superlative that we had one sentence